What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Pitching Ninja's Filthiest Pitches of the Day, the World Series edition. Yep, we made it all the way to the World Series, so remember to hit subscribe, and here are the filthiest pitches from Game 1. I'm going to start off with Aaron Nola, who had 5 strikeouts in 4 1/3 innings, thanks to his changeup, his cutter, including this cutter that wasn't even close to the plate and got a called strike. Yikes. And his knuckle curve. He had this pretty backdoor 95-mile-an-hour two-seamer. And here's an overlay of Nola's 94-mile-an-hour two-seamer with his knuckle curve. And you can see what makes Nola usually so tough to hit. I say usually because he gave up 5 runs this game on 6 hits. He actually started out really well in the first inning, but then Kyle Tucker happened. And this is basically what Kyle Tucker's heat map looks like right now. My dude is on fire. Tucker almost inadvertently decapitated Nola as well. As you can see, Nola wasn't really paying attention to that huge hunk of wood bearing in on his head. Nola battled against Justin Verlander, who also started strong, with 3 perfect innings, but then got rocked himself, giving up 5 runs on 6 hits, moving his World Series ERA to 6.07, and he's 0-6 in 8 starts in the World Series. But we're going to focus on the positives. Verlander had a solid fastball touching 97 and had this great 3-pitch sequence to Bryce Harper, picking him apart with fastballs. I overlaid Verlander's heat map versus Harper that I got from Codify Baseball, and you can see just how well he painted the blue on Harper, which are Harper's cold zones against Verlander's fastball. Verlander also had a couple of nasty sliders and these pretty curveballs. Since Verlander is still throwing gas and is almost 40 years old, I thought I'd show you his mechanics in slow motion. And you can see his ultra high release, but what I really focus on is the way his front leg almost hyperextends back. It looks painful, but it really helps him create velo. This win probability chart shows the ebbs and flows of this game and how the bullpen played such a key role. So now I'll move on to my filthiest relievers. Importantly, both teams feature relievers that have over a 50% whiff rate on one of their pitches. Bryan Abreu has a 51.3% whiff rate on his slider. Ryan Pressly has a 51.7% whiff rate on his slider. Hector Neris has a 52.4% whiff rate on his splitter. Jose Alvarado has a 55.7% whiff rate on his ridiculous cutter. And Seranthony Dominguez leads the way with a 57.1% whiff rate on his slider. And most of these pitches were actually featured last night. Bryan Abreu was throwing flames, painting with his 99-mile-an-hour fastball, and also got a K on that slider that I mentioned. Jose Alvarado had this vicious 95-mile-an-hour cutter, and I thought this overlay does a good job of showing why that cutter gets so many whiffs. Here it is paired up with his 101-mile-an-hour fastball, and you can see how well those pitches track to the plate, but that cutter keeps cutting, getting the swing and miss. That combination is borderline unhittable. Ryan Pressly didn't get a K with his high whiff rate slider, but did have this nasty changeup. Rafael Montero had this 96-mile-an-hour heat. David Robertson had these dirty knuckle curves, and was responsible for maybe the biggest moment of the game, where this hit by pitch to Diaz was called back because Diaz leaned into it. I get that you want to do everything to get on base, but you're not allowed to lean into a pitch to get a hit by pitch. Interestingly, the pitch right before this, Diaz, I think, got the idea of leaning into the pitch because he started to turn his back and wear it or get out of the way of it, and then looked like he tried to lean into that one as well. So my guess in his head, he said, next time if I get that chance, I am gonna get hit. I know it's part of the game, but as a pitching guy, I hate this. Now back to my other relievers. Ranger Suarez came up big with this 94-mile-an-hour nasty sinker. But my filthiest reliever from yesterday was Seranthony Dominguez, who had 3 Ks in 1 2/3 innings and was dominant. I had mentioned his slider has the highest whiff rate among any pitcher's pitch in this World Series, and it didn't disappoint, getting the K. Just dismantling Mancini with sliders. He also threw this sick 96-mile-an-hour cutter to get the sword. And if you're wondering why you would swing at these pitches, here's an overlay of Seranthony Dominguez's two-seamer and cutter. And you can see how close those start and how far apart they end up. And then here's an overlay of his two-seamer and slider. And I know fans were screaming, why are you swinging at these sliders out of the zone? They never were strikes. Well, it's because that two-seamer never was a strike either until it ran back to the plate. As a hitter, it's hard to pick up spin, so you're basically guessing, is this a two-seamer that's going to run back to the plate or a slider that's going to run away? And if you guess wrong, you're either swinging at a pitch way off the plate or getting a backwards K on a pitch well in the zone. And now, my Pitching Ninja moment of zen. This cranberry commercial was played during the game, and I gotta admit, I got a little nervous at first with that dude's hand beneath the table. And even after watching it, I have no idea what I just saw. What is up, Ninja Nation? My picks of the day today are two-leg same-game parlay. I'm going to go with Zach Wheeler for 6 Ks or more and Framber Valdez for 6 Ks or more. What would your picks of the day be?